Hey guys, welcome to Tall Tales with Taco. I'm your host, Mitch Taco Bell. I've got a fun show tonight. It turns out one of my old dear friends from the Marine Corps, way back 30 some years ago at Cherry Point, his son is now a pilot with my airline, and he was also a Marine. It's amazing. I remember this kid when he was about 2, 3, 4 years old. We lived on a freshwater lake in New Bern, North Kakalaki, and it was just a great time to be able to go fishing. And you could look straight to the bottom of this lake. It was gorgeous, crystal clear, no gasoline motors allowed. So we all had canoes and sailboats, and just a blast. But without further ado, I'd like to bring on Mike Kozik. And Kozak, I want to look at you and call you Curly like your dad, because your dad's call sign was Curly as a Harrier pilot. But your call sign, though, is Sunshine.
Rainbow.
Rainbow. Oh, Rainbow
Yeah.
Sunshine. How did you get Rainbow there, youngin?
Well, it was my second one. So my initial one was Shadow Gov, because on deployment I was filling a role of a major, and
Right.
I was the point of contact for all of our distributed forces in OIR. So I was the point man, but nobody kind of was keeping track. So I was answering, and I would always have bi-direction and then my signature line. So my major was signing off on everything that I was doing. So
Right.
I became like a proxy for him. So he could,
Shadow Gov.
because he had to disappear for like 2 months to go help out a different team that they wouldn't want a major in that element. Uh, but he wanted to relive his youth, and I was like, absolutely, man. So I'll do this for a few months, and then we'll just keep rotating back and forth. So I got it after that first deployment.
Yeah.
Do my workup with my second deployment. We're out at a bombing range in Navy Dare, which is out in the Outer Banks. One of the best bombing ranges to ever go to, because there's no on-base building. So you're forced to go and stay in the Outer Banks, and it's amazing time. So I get a phone call from one of the guys over at Dev Crew. He's like, "Hey, I just need one control, and you mind if I come over?" I was like, "Well, why don't we make this like a little training evolution for the day? Can you share some of the stuff that you guys are doing and kind of like help us gauge and see different things?"
Mm-hmm.
So we set up a scenario where we infill on helicopters. We do a half and a gaff, and we go in, take down a target in a house, and then we go to a rally point, meet up, and then drive off. Super simple, super easy. But we're going to use a munition called a LGTR. Some people call it a LGeter. As I was fumbling, it's a laser guided training bomb. For it's a dumb bomb that falls off the rails, but it simulates a laser munition.
Okay.
And I was running as I'm doing my brief, trying to keep up with this Hercules of an athlete that's just not even huffing a breath. And I fumble over my words in the brief, and I call it a LGBTQTR. And he just looks over at me and he goes, "What the fuck was that?" And he goes, "New call sign, Rainbow." And I was like, "Oh no."
All right, that makes total sense. All right,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. Let's go back. First of all, I've known you for 30 plus years, and I've known your dad a long time, and he and I have both grown up through the Corps and commercial airlines. Um, you were kind of on the path to follow your dad's footsteps, right? You started out at Purdue, and you did PLC juniors,
I did.
um, and you're on your way to seniors. What, were you having too good of a time up there at Purdue?
Too good of a time. I was an overachiever. I had too great of a time.
Hanging
where
out down at Harry's chocolate shop and, drinking too much
absolutely,
beer in the basement?
yeah, I'm working at the bar at Brothers,
Uh,
and it was, he even told me it was a bad combination, and it turned out to be a bad combination, so I ended up getting, yeah, exactly. I got dropped from the program,
right,
but I knew I still wanted to be a Marine. So I was like, okay, I'll finish out this semester and then I'm going to enlist. In my mind, that was supposed to happen much quicker than it did. It was like pulling teeth. I was like trying every which way to go as soon as I could to finish up, just get that summer to go to boot camp and then not miss too much school to get right back into it.
right.
Uh, Ended up taking a whole year off of school and then coming back around and re-enrolling when I came back from all the follow-on training.
Oh, okay, okay. So you joined and enlisted, and what's your MOS? What did you decide to do when you went into the Corps?
When I went in, um, it was a weird transitional period. They just blanketed it as a '06 side, so I got the occupation over communications, but it wasn't specific yet.
Mhm.
Which was kind of weird because I was going to a comm company in Indianapolis, and so they had all like the maintenance side, the field radio operator side, some satellite stuff, some data stuff,
Mhm.
and I I knew that from my dad's like wisdom was if you want to be able to pick, you have to perform, and
Right.
so that's what I
Smart.
went in. And and I was like, I just want the shortest course, and that was field radio operator, 6 weeks, and so that's what I aim to do.
So field operator, but then how did you end up in Anglico?
That's kind of a funny story. So I was in that fourth comm company in Indianapolis for all through college, so about
Mhm.
3 years, because I took a victory lap because I wasn't ready to leave Purdue yet because it was such a great time.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so when that happened, I graduated. It wasn't until that last week is when I
Mhm.
discovered that I've been going to college for nothing. I should have been in aviation the whole time. And so I went and enrolled in summer school so I could wrap up that student loan
Uh-huh.
into like a school fund because private pilot at that time, you had to pay out of pocket.
Sure.
And I was like, I've got no money. I've got no job. I have no way to afford this. I'll just ask the government for more money. And so I got approved for it and got my private pilot's license at Purdue. And then when I got done with that, winter was coming. And I was like, I'm like 4 years behind. I've got to excel this program. So I moved down to South Florida and started a school down there to start flight training. But I still had my reserve obligation
Sure.
and I went to go and do my first sergeant interview down there for a transfer, and
Mhm.
he said, "Absolutely not. We're full. We don't need another dumb radio operator." And I was like, "Okay, no worries. Like, got it. I'll look for a different unit." What he didn't know is that when someone tells me no, I'll find a way to say yes.
Uh-huh.
So I was searching through the Marine Corps policies and orders for a reservist. And I went and purposely found a house within a 50-mile ring so that I had to be direct affiliated and he couldn't say no. So uh, that's how I went and joined 4th ANGLICO is because of that. And I showed up to the next drill and he goes, I thought I told you no. And I was like, you did, but I'm checking in as a direct affiliate. And he tried to kick me out that day, but then he was actually super impressed by the end of drill of what happened.
What were you, Lance Corporal at the time? Corporal?
Lance Corporal, yeah, newly promoted Lance Corporal.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
That that is hilarious. So you start now for the folks out there, the laymen out there that probably don't know, Um, describe what ANGLICO is and what they do.
Okay. ANGLICO is Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company. Essentially, what we do is we are a MAGTF element that goes and supports foreign allies and part of NATO and other branches that are going to utilize Marine Corps close air support and assets.
Mhm.
So we break down into fire teams, squad size elements, and we can go bigger if we need to match their pyramid to make a easy liaison into Marine Corps assets to be used.
And give an example of that.
So we host numerous exercises, and our deployments are structured the same way. So our exercises that we do is we'll go over to Europe. We'll join a British exercise or a Georgian exercise, a Republic of Georgia exercise, a South Africa exercise, and we'll go. We'll bring. We'll find components like we specialize in close air support, so we'll bring F-18s from the boat to come and support this exercise, and we'll be the assets that come in and enable that ground assault force to using Marine Corps assets.
So is it air ground? What's the acronym stand for? Air ground naval gun liaison?
Air,
ANGLICO?
Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company. So we can also do ship to surface uh, uh, strikes as well. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
wow. That's amazing. So kind of like a forward air controller or a FAC. Did you go through FAC school and all that as well?
I did. In we don't call it fac school. That's a officer aviator side.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but for our school, it's TACP, and then in the MOS manual, it's Joint Terminal Attack Controller.
Okay. Got it. All right. So you're kind of like Badlands. You're kind of like that TAC guy, the Air Force. Have you watched that movie,
No,
Badlands?
no, I haven't.
Yeah, he's with some dev group somewhere. They're down in South America, um, and he's an air liaison TAC, whatever you call them, TAC
Oh,
controllers.
yes, I did. I watched it on one of my commuter flights.
Yeah, yeah, he's like a TAC controller, and not John Goodman, the dude from oh, Gladiator, Russell Crowe. He's in it.
Oh, yeah,
He's kind of this overweight guy that comes back into the service to fly drones or something. But
yeah,
yeah, so you're kind of like that guy. You've got a radio on your back or a satellite or a sat phone, and you're radioing in coordinates and you're dropping bombs is a good way to
exactly,
say it, right? Now,
exactly.
now we called this camping with good friends in shitty places. Um, when was the first time that you actually had a good camping trip in a shitty place dropping bombs?
Oh, that the most iconic moment comes up is my first deployment with the SP MAGTF. We went and we were standing up the Jordanian JTAC
Uh-huh.
program, and so we started with all the classes. We bring all of our own instructional pieces and simulations on the computer. It's called a DVT, a deployable virtual training equipment.
Uh-huh.
I'll go with it. It may be wrong. And so we're training them up to do all these things. And so then we make it, and we're in like downtown, somewhere in Amman, close by one of the bases. So now we're going into our live fire piece, and we go out to one of the ranges. It was a one time that they were like, "Hey, the Jordanians are going to cook for us today before we go out. It's what they want to do." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like, what could possibly go wrong?" Everything. Um, we ate that morning. and
You had the shits by the afternoon?
oh no, I got dysentery.
Oh,
Yeah, uh, I couldn't keep anything down. I am sitting out there on a cast hill in the middle of the desert,
uh-huh.
freezing my balls off, and I've got just a IV bag after IV bag in my arm.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just so that I could be out there and help the team out, and it was terrible. And then I found out later, I thought we were going somewhere else to sleep, but just like the desert people, we slept in the desert. And so we built a fire, and I had to build a little like stick contraption to keep an IV bag above my head so that the blood wouldn't backflow into the bag.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Do you have a doc with you? Do you have a medic?
Yeah, I went back one day. He said, if this lasts like more than 4 days, like you've got to come back like immediately. And it lasted like 4 days and like 3 hours. So I was like, well, I guess we're good now.
So, I mean, what symptoms does it give you besides well,
Uh
what symptoms does I mean, you get a heavy fever, what? What's
you get
dysentery
yeah,
like?
you get a heavy fever, you get then the chills, then you vomit profusely, and then you also you completely shit everything out.
Oh,
And just a little bit of food will not stay down, and then you start getting all of like the other stuff that comes with it, like the bile and all of that, and it is
and miserable. Did anybody else in your unit, that ate that, did they get sick?
no.
So,
They
just
didn't they
you
didn't eat what I did because I didn't know better, because I just flew in from Kuwait, and they have been
uh-huh,
in Jordan for about 2 months at this point.
uh-huh.
So this
Now
was our changeover with the OIC.
they set you up, man. Did,
Oh,
were you on any full spectrum antibiotics or anything like that?
I was on like horse pills of antibiotics. It was insane. I had like 4 different like jars of antibiotics, what to take like in a very specific time, and
Yeah.
it was terrible.
Was there some story about you dropping bombs on the Jordanian king or close to him or something like that? What was wasn't there a story your dad was telling me?
Oh no, no. The Are you talking about from the podcast that he did?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
Was
yeah.
it
So it's same. We're in our live fire, right? In same evolution. Um, they don't treat close air support the same way that U.S. forces do. They're very excited to see U.S. forces there.
uh-huh,
So when I say this Cobra came from Vietnam, most likely,
right?
it was a 2-blade Cobra, and it flew right over the top of us. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, I don't even know the designation. I know like all of our newer stuff and all of its
Yeah.
capabilities, but I had no idea what this one was. Like no one briefed me about that
Mach
one.
1 Mod A Vietnam Cobra, right.
Yeah, oh, it was. I mean, it was like a square box with 2 blades flying through the air, loud as hell.
Yeah,
Uh, he flies over the top of the OP, blows down all of the tents that we had set up to do all
uh,
of our deconfliction space,
yeah,
because we were going to do mortars the same way that we brought in air. So we were going to deconflict it, and we have another element that's battle tracking all of that. So the Cobra comes over, blows everything to smithereens, like maps go flying, boxes go everywhere. He lands like 5 feet from the OP. I've never seen this before. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden he powers down, past idle, like full shutdown. The
yeah.
canopy comes open. He jumps out and he wanted to shake every single one of our hands. And I'm like, dude,
Who is this?
it was just a Jordanian Cobra pilot that just wanted to shake American hands.
Huh,
Um, so he shakes all of our hands. I'm like, this is bizarre.
Yeah.
jumps back in, and at this point in time, what we didn't know was one of the Jordanian JTACs that was being evaluated slipped the Cobra pilot a piece of paper with all of the attack grids that we were going to give him. So he knew where every single one was, programmed it in, took off, and he's doing his first gun run
Uh-huh.
right over our right shoulder as a direction. And he comes screaming over this little sand dune. And then right past him, I see a Toyota Helix launching into midair like an action film, dust flying everywhere. Some dude like that looks like he's riding a rodeo with a open dumpster in the back, just following along as close as he can to this Cobra, trying to capture all the brass so that he can go and resell it.
Oh my God, you've got to
Yeah,
be
so he's going
kidding.
over like 5 or 6 sand dunes to get down there, and it's just the wildest. It was the wild, wild west. It was insane.
So first of all, the dude lands pretending to want to shake your hand so that his buddy can slip him the coordinates and cheat on the test.
Well, he also wanted to really shake our. He's never seen an American before,
Oh,
and he wasn't at the pre-brief, the pre-air sync brief, and
yeah.
so he felt that he didn't do us an honor, and so he also wanted to shake our hands, but the JTAC slipped him that piece of paper with all of it.
So when he took off, did all the crap go flying, or did you already have that secured before he did a
Yeah,
tornado test storm?
there wasn't much to it. We had it all resecured. It was completely unexpected of how that worked.
Well, that's all kind of practice stuff, right? And cool joint practice things. When was the first time you ever went into no kidding combat?
The first time would be Afghanistan. Um, that was a different that was a different experience than what I had in Iraq. But Iraq 17, 18 was a lot mellower, whereas more your train, advise, assist,
Mhm.
accompany if you have to. But the accompany part was like you got to be like 3 miles away, so you're not really accompanying anything. Whereas Afghan was the train, advise, assist, accompany, and enable.
Yeah.
And so that's where things started changing in perspective a lot, because we're getting all of the zipper traffic of like, hey, like here's our strike list of what we've done. We've dropped 20 targets this in this amount of time. We've been using these munitions. These tactics are working. Sorry, and these aren't. Try be more out of box. And so I'm like reading all this. I'm like, this is a whole different realm. And so that deployment was our first no shit. And even when we first got there, a C-130 took a rocket right next to us while we were getting off at the ADAG.
Oh, really? You guys
Yeah.
had some incoming?
Yeah, we had about 4 to 8 a day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Where were you based at?
in Bagram.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was for us in the strike cell, it made strikes really hard because Bagram's not a fob. It's a very high traffic military civilian airport. So it was like
Yeah.
you had to do some funky things that we haven't really done too much in the past.
Like what?
So do you know how, like, for our TFRs, when we go fly, how it's just kind of like a full cylinder all the way down?
Right.
Uh, so
And
that's
that
what,
he's talking about airspace. Airspace, we have different, like a wedding cake upside down, and different levels and altitudes that are
right.
restricted, or you have to abide by certain rules. But yeah.
Yeah. And so Me at this point in time, I'm flying corporate. So I have a corporate flying experience bridged with being a JTAC. So I'm I kind of see the same way a fact does, which
Mhm.
is very unique for an E5 at that time. And so what we were traditionally used to was like throwing 8-mile cylinders down of TFRs or restricted operating zones, and it would disrupt everything. Like people were diverting from Bagram to Kabul, people going like it was just creating chaos. So when that started happening, that's what we were told in the in the transition of relieving the command that was there previously. So I brought in the upside down wedding cake philosophy. It took me 5 days to convince the contractors that were running ATC at the time for the airport
Mhm.
to see the same way I did of how we were
Mhm.
going to do it. And sure enough, we did a proving run and like that day to show them so that they could see it. And no traffic was ever like disrupted in that. And we
Well,
started
why would the traffic be disrupted? What were you using?
because the Bagram airspace was 10 miles. So if I take 8 miles of that, that takes away, if a point was like only 2 miles from the airport, I shut the entire airport down to drop this bomb. So when I
Oh,
went to the upside down wedding cake, we could allow the civilian plane to come in or military plane to come in and land and only take the space that we were actually going to use.
okay. So you're talking about return fire artillery or
We
HIMARS?
we didn't use HIMARS that often
Mhm.
because we had a 25-mile radius battle ring, and that's what we owned in the strike cell. But we would do mortars, 60s, 81s, and we used 105s. And then the last 2 months, we got the 155s.
So how high would those shells fly?
Anywhere between like 6,000 feet, and depending where we're going, probably like 14, 15,000.
14, 15,000 feet?
Yeah, if it wasn't far and we had to it for distance wise, because you have to take a very high trajectory.
Yeah.
Uh and so
So you're trying to keep shells from going, or you sanctioned airspace so the shells, little shell doesn't hit a big airplane flying through that airspace.
correct.
Oh,
So we would shape our restricted zones to mirror. So we would change instead of doing cylinder drops
huh,
to using everything you learned in sixth grade algebra or geometry about different shapes, and we
yeah,
would employ those. So we would do pie shapes where we would be like, okay, from this far northwest corner, from here, here's your 2 points, and then where those all three of those connect, all of that's going to be a restricted operating zone. So when we do mortars in artillery, we'd use it that way. When we would do CAS, we'd use the upside down wedding cake.
okay, wow. So that's kind of crazy. Do you guys have any close calls?
No, but well, yeah. Uh, so I told you we did a few proving runs.
Right.
ATC, the contractors and us now started getting very warm and fuzzy about the endless amount of shapes that we can create. Well, one day we take our like we take it 4 rockets at one time. The ground alert system goes off, the incoming alarms they always hear and see on videos, and then the C-RAM locks onto it and starts shooting at it and wakes everyone up. Well, me and my buddy, we always try to implement 2 JTACs into the strike cell at a time is like a warm and comfy, just because we were on for the strike cell watch, but on live controls, when we were out doing our missions, it would just be one out there and then one in the strike cell. So him and I are both running while these rockets are coming in. They're like rippling in about minute and a half, 2 minutes spacing. And we have a CFT run, a boots and utes run of 880 from where we were staying to the strike cell to go kill these dudes. And so I think the closest rocket landed like 200 meters, 300 meters from us. But that just only made us run even fucking faster. So we get there, and the problem that we were having, and I had to do a quick little look at the thumb and be like, big sky, little bullet. We'll see. We can't use deconfliction, or we can't use lateral deconfliction, but we can do timing. It's one of the things that they really harp on in our JTAC class. So immediately when we take a rocket in base, airspace closes down, everyone goes into a holding pattern. Well, I leverage my corporate flying experience, and I call ATC and tell them, email me the star for the arrival into the approach. And I'm plotting it on our moving map that we have in the strike cell.
Right.
And these dudes got like 2 miles from it. And I tell them to switch over to our frequency that's checking in, and it's a DHL plane. And I'm like, oh fuck, this is not going to go well. But I was like, all right, like I'm briefing him up while the other JTAC's briefing up the F-16s to go do this. And so now our stack is getting saturated with everyone coming to support the base. And what we do is we have a 7.4, and I think it was a 7.5 or a 777 that both just declared men fuel. So we set our attack to be based off of a time on target and a spacing, an interval between an impact, a DHL plane landing, another impact, and then the 7.4 landing.
Damn.
Yeah.
So do you guys have counter battery radar and all that working as well?
Yeah, so that's what the CRAM was. From what I understand, was our counter battery. It would give you not accurate, but it puts you in the ballpark of where it came from. And so yeah, I mean we dropped 2 500-pound bombs, and then shot one of the brand new missiles that came out for the Air Force called an AGR. This guy thought that we couldn't see him. I'll start with our bombs. It was kind of wild, but we did a delay and then an airburst with a separate timing of how they were going to be employed. So the delay would go, knock them down. The airburst would then scatter and do it all. It was kind of cool to see. 2 of them got away. One ran into the tree line, didn't think that we were going to see him. And that's when we shot him with this. It looked, it's like a 2.5 inch or a 5 inch smart missile. It's got a laser. Right. It's impressive, but you just see this missile come out of nowhere and just schwack him.
Were you guys watching this on drone footage?
I was watching it on drone footage. I was watching it on the F-16 pod, and then off of our balloon cameras too.
Oh wow! I see stuff changed. I was up there in 2008. I don't remember them having any balloon cameras or anything like that.
Yeah, it's the same camera that's like, I would assume, for any type of base defense, like what they have down in Key West. On that tether, if it is a camera, but it's the same concept. It's just a balloon on a tether, and it's got all of like all these wild cameras on it. It's pretty cool.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And so these guys, you smoked these guys and got them?
Yeah. So that was during our RIPTOA
Uh-huh.
replacement and transition of forces. So the base shut down, so they couldn't take off till the next day. So the OIC and the debt chief come back over to see if we need help with anything, and we're like, "Dude, we're already done." Like, and he goes, "Your guys' like first real day of taking over, and you already got one." And I was like, "I guess it's going to be one of those deployments." And it was a very active first 4 months.
Now, were they shooting 122 millimeter rockets at you?
No, it was a Russian rocket. Maybe it was a 120. I don't remember.
Yeah, they'd shoot 122s at us in Iraq, and that was a lot of impact. I mean, concussion would knock the wind out of you.
Oh yeah, and the way it whistles when it comes over, it will send that spider senses down your back, and
Yeah.
that's why I think we ran. If I could record that 880 time, I probably would
Yeah.
never have to run a CFT again. It
And
was so
for everybody asking, CFT is a combat fitness report. The Marine test the Marine Corps requires. They used to do you do 2 PFDs, which was a 3-mile run, pull-ups, and sit-ups. And then they came out with the sadistic kill the old guys deal, and they decided we're going to do the CFT, and it's more combat oriented, which is I'd rather do the CFT. Enjoyed that more, but as you got older, it definitely was kill the old guy test. It
I was
really was.
better for a CFT. I'm a terrible runner.
Yeah, you have to do the body carry. It's like, yeah, I want the little dude.
Exactly.
He don't want me, but I want that little guy. I'm gonna pick
Yeah.
him up and carry him. Oh, Jesus. So that was your first real kinetic deployment.
Correct.
Did you go out on any missions with dev group guys or anything cool?
No, I yeah, not a tier one like that. We were kind of banished from like helping other people because of the change in leadership of who we were supporting.
Right.
Uh, and so we found a loophole to find more work because we have mastermind the way that we are doing strikes in I mean, we were doing strikes about every, if not every day, every other day,
All
uh,
around Bagram.
all around Bagram.
And for those that don't know, Bagram is a big airport and surrounded by mountains. It's way up north, kind of northwest of Kabul, but just a crappy place. I mean, it's a big base. It's probably as big as Cherry Point, I think.
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah, yeah, it's a big base, old Soviet base.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, I mean, word started getting out like because in all of the JTACs for Afghanistan are seeing like these dudes with the call sign grinder are just going at it in Bagram.
Uh huh.
And oh, I didn't tell you how we picked our call sign.
Oh, how's that?
So when you deploy, each uh, team or element of JTACs from the same thing will get a team call sign. So
Right.
we get a whole like 50-page Excel list of like available call signs to pick from.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, no custom ones? Like, come on, man. Uh, so like we have our standard like unit call sign for when we're domestic or CONUS, and then for our own CONUS, we have a different call sign for deploying and being kinetic. Well, that was taken because of the F-35 coming in and doing its proving run. So it took away that deployment call sign for us.
Do you remember what that was?
Lightning.
Lightning. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
F-35 Lightning.
And so it was like, oh, all right. Well, it was like Lightning or Chosen were our two. And both of them were taken. So now we're like, oh, now we have to improvise. It's the next Marine Corps step in the leadership planning process. And so we're going down, and it's me and two captains, two majors. And we're
Uh,
like, all right, do we go cool or do we go just off the charts kind of cuckoo?
but you got to go one of those call signs on the 2 pages.
Exactly. So we found one. The Air Force meant it a certain way. We meant it a different way.
Right.
And I'll explain how we slowly transitioned it to our way. So we're like looking through this list, and we're like, all right, you make your top three, you make your top three, and we'll pull them together. We'll meet tomorrow, and we'll go over these at shift change. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. So we're sitting there, all three of us, or all four of us, come up with it, and we're looking at our list, and it's like, we got 3 votes for Grinder, and that is a like male on male dating website. For, like,
I
hookups.
thought that was Tinder. Was that? I don't know any of that.
No,
Tinder, Grinder. Grinder's the gay one.
yeah, that's the gay one. And so I was like, I mean, we already got majority on this one. I feel like we have to do this. So we ended up choosing that, submitting it, got approved. Now everyone in Afghanistan knows that we are going by the call sign of Grinder. So now we get put into a group category of like our priority and everything. Well, we start doing so many strikes. I'm starting to get like so many phone calls, and I'm like smoozing the pot, talking to the right people, doing what I did on my first deployment, and all of a sudden one day I'm bored on shift, nothing's happening, and I go into the master doc and I delete the E in Grinder at the end so it looks like the gay dating website logo. So it then reflected into all of the systems as that. So that's how we morphed it.
And how long did that last?
Our entire deployment.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, because we got extended a few weeks, so
Oh, God.
that lasted about almost 8 months.
Oh my God. No, no. Well, an old guy like me probably wouldn't even know what the hell Grinder is.
And that's what we were banking on.
But all the young guys are laughing their ass off.
Oh yeah. It was funny because like there was this like chat forum that we all like talk to like kind
On
of
the
like,
zipper.
yeah, to like, hey, I once you get done with this aircraft, pass them to me. Here's the point for them to come check in. And
Uh-huh.
immediately when the update came and we did our first strike and I'm doing the battle report, they were
Uh-huh.
like, no fucking way.
This is on the whisper mode, right?
Yeah. And so I have like now 18 different tabs open from different JTACs all around Afghanistan, being like, how did you pull this off? Yeah, I'm like, dude, I can't tell you.
Oh my God. That's funny. You talk about the zipper mode. I remember when first we had you had the chats. You're on the zipper, which is the classified, and you had the little chat rooms, and then you could whisper mode to somebody. So I could go like, I was learning, so I go like, "Hey, Mike, what is BBGW? What does that acronym mean?" Because it was all acronyms being
Yeah.
flown a mile a second, acronyms
Oh
left
yeah.
and right. And I'm like, "What is BBGW?" Because it said something about ma'am plus tit plus 6 BBGWs by the river. Go left, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? First of all, I got ma'am, military age male suspect. What is tit? And he goes, terrorist in training equals kid. And then I go, all right, what is BBGW? And he goes, oh, that's Burka Babes Gone Wild. That was all the girls down there in the river doing laundry. The Burka Babes Gone Wild. They were flailing all the clothes. Burka Babes Gone Wild. So, I mean, you would read all of this stuff, but you would have to, like, you'd whisper to somebody, hey, what are they talking about? Try to get me up to speed, you know? So that was kind of funny. Burka,
Oh man, it's all acronyms. It's why it's such a steep learning curve because once you learn like the Marine Corps acronyms, now
mhm,
you have to learn all of the other services acronyms that all mean the same as yours. So you have to do like a foreign language translation, uh,
right.
like we do down in Miami. Of like, oh, that's Spanish. That means this in English.
Well, it's kind of like go all the way back to Korea,
Yeah.
Chosen Reservoir. They're like send Tootsie Rolls. We are in immediate need of Tootsie Rolls, which was a code word for mortar rounds. But the Air Force guy who got the message was like, "Oh, uh, okay." So he goes to the PX and he buys up every box of Tootsie Rolls at the PX and gets them all. And they load them on the back of the airplane. They parachute them into the Chosen. So all of a sudden, yay! We got the mortar rounds are flying in. These boxes, crates lay. They open them up and it's full of Tootsie Rolls. They're like,
That is.
no, and they break code, you know, over. No, we need mortar rounds, you idiots. Oh, they didn't realize Tootsie Roll was the call sign for mortar rounds. But what turned out was those things were frozen, right?
Mhm.
The Tootsie Rolls and the sea rations were all frozen. They couldn't even open a sea ration or eat it.
Okay.
So what they would do is they'd take the Tootsie Roll and break it, um, cut it, cut it up, and they'd put it in their mouth and suck on it. And that sugar is what kept those guys alive for like a week.
So it was a genius
It
misunderstanding.
it it was it was a brilliant misunderstanding. So, like, we had a meeting the other day, and we've got General Kerry, who's a chosen reservoir survivor, got the Silver Star there, and, General Kerry, in front of him is a big giant box of Tootsie Rolls, and so we call them the Tootsie Roll MREs, and everybody comes up and grabs one when they go to the meeting and
Oh,
sits and sucks on a Tootsie Roll while we're having the meeting.
oh, that's awesome.
Got a lot of history to it,
Oh yeah.
but that's funny. Okay, so that was your first deployment, and
Second.
you know when people think you go to war, they picture you living in a tent. This is 2018. You were in Kansas City somewhere, or B huts, right?
Oh yeah.
And you know, did if correct me if I'm wrong, they had these stupid bullhorns that would go off at 2 o'clock in the morning with the uniform of the day for the Air Force. Today's uniform of the day will be something like 2 in the morning. The friggin' one MC's going off, or they would go, "The range is now hot." I repeat, the range is now, and you're like, God, 2 in the morning, just shut the hell. I hated Bagram.
Oh, see, they it Bagram was a it was a unique place. Um, in and I was talking to the ODA teams because we helped them out for a few of their missions, and I'm like, I don't get it here. Like we've been here for 5 months, and I still don't understand this place. Like it's just it's so out of touch because it became so like, oh, you're going to Bagram, like nothing's going on. That's crazy here. Like we're gonna make this just a CONUS base away. It's a vacation.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just get a little extra pay. So like, I mean, you had to have like clean camis. Don't dare go into the DFAC or the chow hall with a scrub of dirt and like it was a saluting base. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, you wear your safety belt walking around. Well,
Oh yeah, you wore safety belts. You didn't wear subdued ranks. You wore shinies, and
yeah.
and I'm like watching all of this. I'm like, this is dumb. So I was the team leader, not the officer in charge, and I was like, I'm talking to our guys, and I'm like, this is kind of wild. I was like, we've got civilian clothes. what do you think? And so after, if we didn't have anything going on that day,
Uh-huh.
and it was an off day, we didn't wear uniforms.
So you walked to chow hall in civvies
Yep.
with the weapons?
With our pistols, yeah. Because we had pistols and rifles. So we would go and lock it up into our own armory and just pull our pistols and then
Yeah.
go to the chow hall that way.
See, the Air Force would walk around in PT gear. That's all they had. Like the
Yeah.
Army and Air Force walking around in PT gear, and they'd have an M16 slung over the shoulder with no rounds, no magazines at all. They had their weapon.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd go. I used to talk to people at chow hall. I'm standing behind them. I'm look back and I'm like, "Hey, so what happens if like the bad guys rush the base and attack us?
Yeah.
You know, you're going to stand behind me. You're going to use that as a club, that rifle." I'd shoot him, sir. With what? Where you're wearing PT gear. I don't have to visualize a lot. Where are you hiding those 30-round magazines? You know?
Yeah. It was absurd.
Oh, wait a
It,
minute. Then you had the I stayed in a little tent on Disney Drive across from the gym,
yeah.
and every single night was like it was rap night one night, country night,
Oh yeah.
uh,
Your salsa night.
salsa night. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And there was like a Hispanic and Latino Heritage Month, and then a Filipino night, and we went through everything. And
Yeah.
then there was like a crazy ass bingo night, and we take or no, it wasn't a bingo night. It was like I think there was a parade or something. There was something that was like, this is just fucking stupid.
We used to
Uh,
say we went to war, went to combat, and garrison broke out.
exactly. We called it the good idea fairies.
Yeah,
Uh, it was like, oh, this would be a good idea. We should do this. And then someone does it. And then you let that keep building. And then it just gets so out of hand the way it did. Um, and I remember like they blocked off the road. I don't know if they were doing a marathon or they were doing some type of event, but they blocked off the entire road. Well, what do you think happened that day?
when you got attacked.
We took 8 rockets that day. One of the ECPs, entry control points, starts taking fire, and so our QRF element is now trapped in this bullshit run and can't make it to the ECP. So, what would any Marine do? He just took his truck and plowed through the barrier and started honking. And not only was the base being attacked, but
Yeah,
they were trying to breach into it.
yeah,
The QRF team is like now imposing on this amazing race that's happening through the
yeah.
middle of it. And they had, I want to say they're Romanian, but they were base police
Uh-huh.
trying to go pull over the QRF element that's going to enable and support the
Right,
ECP. And
right.
I'm like, what the fuck am I witnessing?
Oh my god. Yeah,
And
yeah. That's
I take over because I in the strike cell I can take over some of the cameras
yeah,
and change, and so I'm like watching them, and I've got the base commander here like sitting a few stairs away from me or a few seats away from me, and I'm like, how's the race going? Yeah, I'm like, do you want to stop this? Because you've got a Romanian police officer trying to pull over a QRF element. I'm like, it might be time. Or no, it wasn't the base commander. It was the OPSO that I was talking to. And I was like, can we do something about this? This is kind of counterproductive. And then after that moment, we stopped doing the races. We stopped doing a few other things. The Air Force started getting pissy because like the fun police was out, and that was the Marines in town being like, this is dumb.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, that's typical. Go to
Yeah.
war and Garrison broke out. That sucks. So what was it? What was the story that you told at your interview? I was supposed to ask that.
Oh, yeah. So all through like my career, it has been a very non-standard uh, way. Uh, how I joined the military, how I got into aviation, and
Uh-huh.
then everything about it. So the only thing that I remember when I was doing my interview prep with a fantastic company, they were like, you need to think this is your story. You need to think of something that is going to take you, and they're going to be like, ah, that's
Spitfire?
no, it was
Oh, okay.
oh man,
That's all
it,
right. That's all right. So what did they say? You got to do a story.
So they're like, so tell me how you got into aviation. And I was like, well, funny story. I was like, I never had a drive, never had ambition to be in aviation. I discovered it on accident the last week of college. And then I was like, I'm hooked on one flight. And that's what I focused everything on. Spent all my money, spent everything. And then
Uh-huh.
after that, I had no money, but I had a deployment opportunity, which would replenish the money that I needed to get through the rest of my training,
Right.
or to pay for all the training that I just put on my credit card.
Yeah,
Uh,
because Daddy Curly doesn't want to keep paying this stuff out.
he didn't pay a dollar.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I I wheeled and dealed to get extremely cheap flight training. I
Uh-huh.
mean, oil changes on airplanes, washing airplanes, selling discovery flights, and then going and picking up foreign pilots that were coming to train at our training center
Mhm.
from Stewart all the way down to Miami, and then driving them back. Uh, so, I mean, and then I worked at Best Buy at the same time while also doing flight training. Yeah. Uh, and so I didn't say any of that stuff, but it was like, I got the drive, and I saw the path, and I just went full force. Um, I get all the way up to, I knew I was going to be deploying, but I wanted to go pay for my commercial multi because I knew that was going to be something that I'm going to have to focus on later. If I let money be a problem now and
Yeah.
I get new money, I'm not going to want to pay for it later. I'm going to try to shift it some way.
Right.
So I was like, I'll just pay for it now. Got my multi-engine add-on in like 3 days. Uh, a day later, I leave to start my deployment cycle for training, which is 3 months long. I get a week off and then I go over to Iraq. And so I get through my first deployment. Um, Things are going great. I then augment the Mosul push. Um, so I'm out in the middle of nowhere in one of the FOBs in fire bases,
What year
bouncing,
is this?
huh?
2010?
16, 17.
Okay.
Um, and I'm enabling it on the JTAC side, uh, strike cell stuff. And so during that time, like I'm going out, resupplying all of the dudes, helping them out, taking over shifts. And then when I'm getting back, I'm applying to every job possible. I think I applied to over 500 jobs
Mhm.
all around the US to see if one person was going to bite on a 700-hour pilot or 625-hour pilot. Um, and I got one phone call back, or I got one email back that says, "Hey, let's set up an interview." And I was like, "What time and day would you want?" And he was like, "This time, this day. We'll just do a phone interview for the first one, and then we'll go from there." And I was like, "Okay." I mean, they don't seem too serious, but we don't want to waste each other's time. But I had a tactic in mind. I got our sat phone for 15 minutes.
Right.
I put it on the call sheet. I reserved it. I knew. I did the math of like, okay, Iraq time to Eastern time. Oh, that's actually this day. So I had to go and redo the call log and be like, okay, I want it for this time for the 15 minutes. We start the interview. It goes great. It starts cutting out a little bit. And he's like, and then all of a sudden, a Paladin. Are you familiar with what a Paladin is?
Paladin.
It's a 155 howitzer artillery cannon on a tank.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it goes off in the background. And I'm like, I just sink in my seat. I'm like, oh shit. Now all of the base alarms are going off.
Right.
And he goes, Mike, where are you? I was like, oh, I'm in Iraq right now, trying to apply for a job. And, you know, like it would mean a lot to me, but I have 3 minutes left because that artillery round was for a training evolution for the Iraqi army for their JTAC stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, I would really love this opportunity. He goes, Mike, you have the job. No, we don't need another interview. He's like, just when you get back, take a month off, come see me, stop by the office. You're hired. I'll send over your conditional offer right now. Just sign it and send it back.
Who was this guy? What
So
company was this?
This was a company called Corporate Eagle that was up in Pontiac, Michigan.
Well, we need to give that guy a shout out. I like that guy a lot. What's his name?
His name's Chris Whedon.
Chris Whedon. Well, anybody who knows Chris Whedon out there, you're a patriot, man. I love you.
Yeah. So he hired me on the spot, and then and I was there for on and off 6 years.
Huh?
Before I came over here.
Oh, that's awesome. What'd you fly over there?
I did one trip in a King Air 200, and then I flew a Hawker 700, 800 XP, and 900 XP, and then a Falcon 2000 and 2000 EX classics.
Nice. So have you flown with your old man yet?
We have not. We haven't even rented a plane together because we are both terrified. We haven't flown props in so long that I don't even. This is a whole different realm of thinking.
No, at the airline. Have you guys?
No, he's on the 7-8.
Yeah, go jump on the jump seat with him.
That's a long time to sit on the jump seat to London.
No, it's not, because you fly over there and then go have a couple pints with the old man.
Well, we're getting out of our summer schedule, so it'll probably, hopefully, it eases up.
Yeah, you need to do that. Tell him I said hi, would you?
Oh, absolutely.
That's funny. Well, listen, man, I've kept you on for about an hour. Is there any parting shots that you have?
No. This was awesome.
So do you recommend people go be a JTAC, a ANGLICO guy?
1,000%. Being in ANGLICO was the best years of my life. I got to travel with some of my best friends all over the world. When they tell you that story in boot camp that you're going to go travel the world, that's with 300 guys or however many is in a battalion or whatever. Mm-hmm. But doing it with 16 to 4 dudes brings a whole different perspective in shenanigans that happen.
Well, camping with some of your best friends in the shittiest places in the world. That's a good title. I'm going to use that. Well, listen, brother, you have a great one, and thanks for spending your time with me here today. And I will hopefully see you in the schoolhouse. Maybe give me a call if you make it down DFW.
Absolutely. If not, I'll see you in February or March.
That's or what about October? February, March. What are you doing February, March?
That's so I didn't hear anything about the RTAG stuff. I'm on the backup volunteer list, but never got anything back from it. But February, March would be my CQ month.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll be here.
Yeah.
Call me.
Absolutely. If not, I'll see you out on the line.
You betcha. All right, brother. You take care. I'll
All
talk to
right,
you.
you too.
All right. Hoorah. Hey, I hope you enjoyed a little, try kind of touch on different MOSs. And I find ANGLICO guys to be interesting because they're really sort of like recon, FAC dudes. Um, interesting, very interesting MOS within the Marine Corps. But until next week, you guys enjoy your time. Tip your waiters, go get some tacos, and adios, hasta luego. Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, shishini, au revoir, domarigato gozaimasu, shinde kudasai. Ciao, rivedici, tashikura, assalamu alaikum. Let's see, I think I'm going to go with this one. Take care.